everybody, it's Brooke with The Buttered Home. Welcome to Messy Kitchen Monday. So tonight we are continuing with our series on great Thanksgiving dishes. And this is not really a dish as much as this is a condiment, but I don't know how many of you go to the store and buy cranberry sauce. Whether you get it jellied or whole, it's not that great. But it's not terrible either. So what I'm about to show you tonight is how to make it yourself. And just simply for no other reason that it's better. You can give it a whole new flavor profile that you don't get from the can. And it's really simple. It's almost like making a jelly or a jam. It's not even as labor intensive as making a jelly or a jam, really. So right now, and for the last 2 weeks, you can, in the produce section, find the 12-ounce bags of fresh cranberries. The recipe that I have, you can double it if you wanted a large quantity. What I make makes about 3/4 of a quart, so it'll last you a long time. But some of the other advantages of having a homemade cranberry sauce is that you can actually use it and you can glaze your turkey with it. You don't necessarily have to use it just to go as a condiment, but you can use it to actually glaze your turkey if that's how you like to do it. It's really fresh, really good, and really simple. So when I'm going to cook it for you tonight, I'm going to show you 2 different methods at the same time. I'm going to show you how to do it on the stovetop, which takes a little bit longer. And I'm also going to show you how to do it in your Instant Pot. The ingredients are all the same. There's no difference. The only difference is your cook time and your method. And really, it's not all that different, because whenever it gets done in the Instant Pot after you cook it for 6 minutes, you are going to actually put it back on saute and cook it until it reaches the desired consistency that you want. One thing that you'll need to keep in mind, though, is that it will thicken as it cools. So maybe when you cook it either on the stovetop or in your Instant Pot, you want to make sure that you get it just thinner than how you want it, because it's actually going to get thicker and better as it cools. Now, this fresh cranberry sauce can be frozen for up to a month. So now is the perfect time to make it, and you can also refrigerate it for up to 2 weeks. So I'll post the recipe for you tomorrow so that if you wanted to try your hand at making it, you could, and you would keep in the refrigerator until Thanksgiving Day. If you wanted to freeze it and wait and use it at Christmas, you can combine it with some brown sugar and some maple syrup, and you can glaze a ham with it. So if you like ham for Thanksgiving, the cranberry sauce is good for that too. This cranberry sauce is, like I said, it's like a jelly, so you can use it to actually glaze your turkey or glaze your ham. Now, one of the ingredients that it calls for is some orange zest or some orange juice. So we're going to start with the really easy method tonight. You don't want to use a planer or a zester on this, because you actually want a whole strip. And what that does is, in the cooking process, it allows you to get the flavor, but then whenever you're done, you can take that out and it won't be bitter in there. If you were to grate it, you would not be able to get it out, and it could turn bitter in a week or 2. So if you have a vegetable peeler, all you have to do, and you have to be careful, just like when you're zesting lemons, that you don't want to get in much of the pith or the white stuff. So I just barely touch the skin and take it and just get a little strip just like that. Now, mine does have a little pith on it, but it's not much. If you'll see, most of the pith is still left on the orange itself. So I've got that. I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to be using fresh orange juice for this, but you don't have to, but I can't leave an orange like this. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. So I'm just rubbing it on the counter, and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to juice it. This recipe only calls for about 1/2 cup of orange juice. So if you've got a really good Valencia orange or a really good navel orange, which we're starting to be able to see more of this time of year. You should be able to get that relatively easy out of one orange. Now my kids are sad that I'm juicing it. I've been asked twice if I was going to juice it. I think they wanted the orange. So when I go to the grocery store on Wednesday, I'm going to have to get some oranges. But be sure, if you're just joining us, we are cooking homemade cranberry sauce. And I know a lot of people are going, why don't you just go buy it? And you can. There's nothing wrong with that. I just like doing stuff like this, and I know that a lot of people, other people do too, and it's really not that labor intensive. So it's kind of like homemade biscuits in that respect, where you do it once when you have the time, and you really see, number one, it's better, and number two, it's really, now it's not as easy as opening a can, but it's so much better, and it's not that difficult. So I'm just gonna finish up getting this orange juiced, and I have to show off my little juicer that my mom got me. It's old and it's glass, and it actually has the separate piece on the top that catches all the seeds and whatnot, and then the bottom part is actually a measuring cup, so you can measure how much you have juiced. So I've got my orange juice ready, and let me just really quickly go over the ingredients with you. This calls for a 12-ounce bag of fresh cranberries, which you can find at any produce section right now. It calls for a cup of sugar, 1 strip of orange zest, half a cup of orange juice, preferably fresh squeezed, and you saw that took less than 2 minutes. 1/4 of a cup of water, 1 cinnamon stick, 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Anytime you're making anything sweet, just a little pinch of salt in there makes it that much sweeter. A tablespoon of good bourbon. Woohoo! We're a little saucy tonight. I know I promised y'all last week we might be a little boozy. And when I say little, it's little. It's a whole tablespoon. And then, of course, 2 tablespoons of really good raw organic honey. Mine is, of course, Old Magnolia, made right here in Raymer by my friend James Tucker. So, without further ado, I'm going to move the camera and we're going to get started. And I've already got all of my ingredients in the Instant Pot, but I'm going to show you how to add them in the boiler as well. So bear with me while I move you. Oh, hey. And be sure and give us a wave if this is your first time being with us tonight. Tell us where you're from, where you're watching from, as I get everything situated. How's that looking? I want them to be able to see both.
Yeah, they can see both. I was just making sure they could see both.
Okay. All right, so here you'll see in my heavy boiler, I have the 12-ounce bag of fresh cranberries. And just if you've never seen them before, they are really pretty. They look like large pieces of the inside of a pomegranate, actually. And they cook really easily, and when the heat gets to them, they'll bust, and then they'll make their natural juice, and they'll cook down with the sugar and all that good stuff. So, and you'll see in the Instant Pot, I already have everything. Yeah, that looks good. Sorry, I was just checking my camera. So I've got my cranberries. So now I'm gonna add in the cup of sugar. And then the orange juice that I just squeezed. A whole cinnamon stick, and oh boy, it smells good. That smells like fall right there. The strip of orange zest. The 1/4 of a cup of water. I got the cinnamon stick, and then I need my salt. Sorry, I'm working out of 2 places. So there's my salt. I gotta add my salt over here. I had not added it. Now, we've added everything except for the bourbon, the pepper, and the honey. And I forgot to mention it calls for a pinch of black pepper as well. So we're going to start this to get it boiling. And I'm going to grab a spoon and just kind of mix everything up. And that sugar and the orange juice and the water is going to liquefy pretty quickly. So we're going to bring this to high heat so that everything will turn into a simple syrup. And that simple syrup will take those cranberries and it will start to pop them and cook them down. Alright, so we've got everything in our Instant Pot as well. It's got enough liquid in there, and like I said, we have everything in here that we have in here, minus the bourbon, minus the pepper, and minus the honey. So this is why it's easier. You just pop that lid on and you set it to manual or pressure cook for 6 minutes. Now, because it's got to come up to pressure, for all of you people who are not familiar with an Instant Pot, when it says a 6-minute cook time, it means a little more than that, because it's got to take that liquid in there and it has to come up to pressure. So while we're waiting on that, we're just going to stir this, and here before long we should start to see these cranberries start to pop, kind of change color, and you'll start to see that your simple syrup will take on a whole new color as well. Now, anytime you're cooking with a simple syrup like this, you want to make sure that you watch it really well and that you stir it pretty good, because you don't want it to burn. Anybody who's ever made caramel or burnt sugar icing, that's an old-fashioned cake icing, will tell you that the constant stirring is something you're going to have to do, or you're going to have to at least stay with it for a while. Now, of course, we're not going to get completely through tonight because the boiling method takes a good bit longer than the Instant Pot. And the Instant Pot will take longer than the time that I normally allot for these Messy Kitchen Mondays. But I already have some finished product. But I did want you all to see how quickly, it starts to happen. And of course, a watched pot never boils. So it may take a little bit longer than I myself had even anticipated, but that's all right. That's the beauty of cooking live. We're doing it live. If everything went according to plan, then I might as well just make a pre-recorded video. So we are coming up to pressure nicely. I can see my pen over here starting to raise, and I can actually hear it making some whistling noises. So one of the things I'll go over really quickly, even when you're done with the 6-minute cook time, you're going to do what's called an NPR, or a natural pressure release. And that was where you turn the unit off. A lot of people just leave it on warm, but I like to turn mine completely off. It seems to the pressure come down a little quicker. There's nothing that says that it has to be done that way, but a lot of people will just set it to the warm function. But I find that the pressure pen drops quicker if I actually turn it off and just let it sit. But a natural pressure release can take anywhere from about 8 to 15 minutes, just depending on how much you have in your Instant Pot. If you're cooking a lot in there, say if you're cooking a whole chicken or whatnot, it might take a little bit longer for your pen to drop. But now, I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I can hear my cranberries in here whistling. So, oh, burnt sugar icing. Yes, I'm planning on doing that, but it's been a long time since I've made that. So I'm going to have to test it before I do it, and I'll share the recipe for sure. I've already had some people ask about that, so that is in the books, and we may do that just for around Christmas, because I know those burnt sugar cakes they're old, reminiscent of everybody's grandmother. and people like nostalgic food at Christmas. So we will certainly get on that, Marianne. Thank you. But now I can feel with my spoon too that my berries are starting to soften. And cranberries, while they don't have a thick skin, they are a dense fruit. So you feel like when you put them in here that it's going to take them forever to cook down, but it really doesn't. Like I can see them. I'm going to try to fish one out and show you. See if you can see it. If I can do it without burning myself. They're starting to bust. Tanner, can you see that?
Hang on, there's a line.
They're starting to bust. So that's what you want to see, is for them to kind of start to burst. And the smell, guys, I wish you could smell it. If you make it, you will be able to smell it. But you can see that the simple syrup is starting to turn pink now. And that's because those cranberries are all busting. And I can hear them busting. Maybe if I quit talking for a minute, y'all could hear it too, huh? But the cranberries are so pretty. I know Tanner walked in here earlier and I had them already in the Instant Pot. And she looked and she said, "Oh, Mama, that looks so festive in there." And it does, with the orange peel and the cinnamon stick, as well as the sugar and the red of the berries and the dark, almost purple of some of them. It looks really, really pretty. All right, we are coming up fast, guys. I am now able to kind of start mashing some of these with my spoon. And all this happened in less than about 5 minutes. And it's a little frothy. So now that I've come up to boil, I'm going to lower my heat to simmer. And now, you know, your stove is like your husband. You know whenever he's temperamental, and you know when to stay away from him, you know when to back off. Your settings on your own stove are different than mine. So when I say bring it down, bring the heat down just to a simmer, that might be a setting of low for some people, and that might be a setting of 3 for some of y'all. So I know not many of y'all probably have temperamental husbands, so that might not be a good analogy, huh? All right, look how pretty, y'all. Would you just look how pretty? Would you just look at that? How pretty it is. So we've got it at a good simmer now, and I'm just using the back of my spoon to just kind of mash the berries. You can certainly get a potato masher and do it if you want to make your life a little bit easier. But if I'm gonna have to stir them and stay with them, I might as well just do it with my spoon. And now, like I said, the skins on these, they're not thick. The fruit itself is dense. So the dense part of the fruit is actually what you're cooking out, and that's making the sauce, or that's making the pulp in here that makes it turn into a beautiful silky jelly. And y'all see how quickly they cooked? All right, so at this point, what the fun thing to do is to add about 2 tablespoons of honey. And now I'm just gonna eyeball it. And to clean that spoon off, I'm just gonna, the honey just adds just a little bit of a different type of sweetness to it. And then about a pinch of pepper. And that just adds a little oomph to it, as my friend Rayanne says, a little oomph. Doesn't make it hot, but it does give it a little something extra. And then a tablespoon of bourbon. Now, the reason why we add the bourbon at the end is because we don't want all of the alcohol to cook out. So at a simmer, you're just taking the sugars from the alcohol, and you're not really cooking all of it completely out. because alcohol burns off pretty fast. Now, at this point, it's thick enough for me. And you can do the old back of the spoon test with this just like you do anything else. So at this point, I'm going to turn mine off. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to continue just to mash those berries. Now, naturally, you don't want to do anything with this until it has completely cooled because it is hot, hot, hot. Now, with that being said, if you were going to use it to actually glaze a ham or glaze a turkey, you know, I would let it cool just a little bit, but while it's good and loose, it is a good time to pour it over there, over your ham or your turkey, and it will just be absolutely fantastic. Now, when this cools to the temperature that you can put it in a jar or a sealable Gladware or whatever you want to keep it in, freeze it in, put it in the refrigerator, then you're going to want to take out that orange peel and you're going to want to take out that cinnamon stick because they've done their job. So there you go, guys. There's homemade cranberry sauce, and I promise you it will be the best you've ever had. And it's easy on the stovetop. It's also easy in the Instant Pot. It may be just as quick to do it on the stovetop as it is the Instant Pot, but one of the luxuries of the Instant Pot is for busy people. So if you want to make cranberry sauce and not have to babysit it at the stove, use the Instant Pot. It takes probably the same amount of time if you're doing a double batch, and it's just as good. The cooking method is just different. So if you want to do it and be able to walk away from it, the Instant Pot is the best way to go. So guys, there you go. There's easy, simple, flavorful, and a little boozy cranberry sauce for your festive holiday gatherings. And like I said, this will keep in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. And you can also freeze it once it's completely cooled for a month, probably a little more than a month. So if you wanted to make it now, if you had some free time, you could do that. And you could have it for Thanksgiving, or you could have it for Christmas if you went ahead and freezed it. So my Instant Pot just came up to pressure. So now it's going to cook down for 6 minutes. I'm going to let it do a natural pressure release, and then I'm going to see how thick it is. I'm going to bust the berries in there and see how thick it is, and then possibly saute it for a few minutes just to get it to this type thickness that I want right there. But y'all, it's beautiful. And you could add more sugar to it if you wanted it sweeter. You just have to find the flavor that you enjoy. And you can do that by adding sugar or more honey to it if you wanted it a little bit sweeter, because the cranberries are tart. So I'm going to move my camera and I'm going to show you the finished product and how well it looks and holds together once it's completely cooled. Let me move it down. So there it is. There it is, completely cooled and all ready to go. And you see it's just this beautiful deep crimson color. Perfect for the holidays. So that was quick and easy, I think, and definitely better than opening a can. So just to go over the recipe really quickly, I'm going to post it tomorrow like I always do, and it will be for the stovetop. But I'll put a note in the comments on the recipe tomorrow that's going to tell you how to do it in your Instant Pot if you want to be able to do it and walk away from it. And I love that kind of cooking. I don't know about y'all, but the Instant Pot, to be able to put something in there and just kind of go and do laundry or do something else I need to do, I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. I don't know about y'all. So it's 12 ounces of fresh whole cranberries, a cup of sugar, 1 strip of orange zest, a half a cup of orange juice, 1/4 of a cup of water, 1 cinnamon stick, and a pinch or about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Just enough to accent that sweetness of it. And at the end, once you come down to simmer and you're waiting on it to thicken, you add a tablespoon of good bourbon, a pinch of pepper, and 2 tablespoons of honey. Now, of course, all of the sweeteners are really up to you. Taste it. If you want it sweeter, add a little bit more. That's the great thing that I try to do with my recipes, is I try to make them where you can make them your own. So what I'm giving you is the basics so that you can add to that. You might want to put less sugar in it. You might like it tart, you know, a little more tart than what this recipe calls for. That's the beautiful thing about cooking. Following a recipe for things like baking is really good. General cooking, you can take a recipe and you can make it your own. And that's what I've tried to teach my kids, and that's what I've tried to tell all of y'all too, is get in the kitchen. Make something, follow the recipe, and think about adding something to it that would make it different, that would make it better, and try it. You haven't lost anything. As long as you do a little modification, you may not really ever ruin a recipe completely. Cooking is all about trial and error. So don't be afraid to get in the kitchen and try something new. Cook, you know, an international dish that you've never done before. If I could give you homework, it would be to come back and tell me that you cooked something this week that you've never cooked before. So that's why we feature recipes like this, because I was at the grocery store today, and a lady behind me asked me what those were, the cranberries. She's eaten cranberry sauce her whole life, and she never knew what a fresh, whole cranberry looked like. And she said, "What are you going to do with them?" And I said, "I'm going to make cranberry sauce." She said, "Like for Thanksgiving?" So there's so many things that we eat every day that you don't necessarily think about making on your own. But one of the things that matters to me and to my family is knowing what's in what we eat. Yeah, it's got bourbon in it, but you know, most of it cooks away. But anyway, I've rambled enough. I'm getting a whistle from the other room. I know what that means, and that it is time for me to go. So I hope y'all enjoyed this recipe, and be sure, if you do make it, post a picture either here on this page or on your own page, and be sure to hashtag the Buttered Home, or hashtag MKM, or hashtag Messy Kitchen Monday. So y'all have a great night and have a wonderful rest of your week. And be sure to shoot me a message if you want to see something specific. And from all of us at the Buttered Home, bye-bye.